Cannex Capital Holdings Inc. is a Vancouver-based company providing real estate, management, financial, branding, and IP support to its licensed cannabis business operators domestically and internationally. Cannex is focused on premium indoor cultivation, extraction, manufacturing, and branding of edible and derivative products, as well as retail operations. Cannex Capital Holdings Inc. is listed on the CSE and trades under the ticker symbol CNNX.
My name's Howard Glassman from the Humble and Fred Show. Thanks for joining us. How are you today, sir?
Hi, Howard. I'm very well. Nice to meet you.
Well, it's nice to meet you. I mean, there's lots of stuff going on with your company, a lot of things that we've wanted to talk to you about, but it turns out that one of the big stories about Cannex, and a lot of the Midas letter faithful are hoping we would ask you this question. I know you know the question coming up. What's going on with the trading of Cannex?
So I think what you're probably referring to is the trading halt of Cannex.
Yes, sir.
It was all halted on Friday. This is a result of our what is being defined by the CSE as a transformational transaction with 4Front Holdings, whereby we have signed definitive agreements to acquire that company. And as per standard CSE policy, there is a halt in the stock until all of the documentation is being submitted and reviewed. I would love to be back to trading as quickly as possible, but unfortunately we need to abide by the CSE regulations here.
Okay, well that was the number one question we got when people heard that you were coming up on the show. Now let's get to something that just happened recently. On March 1st, you released the information that you guys have signed a definitive agreement with 4Front Holdings, whereby the former security holders of Cannex and 4Front will become security holders in the combined company. So tell us, who are 4Front and why are you guys joining forces?
Yeah, this is really a perfect match, as we call it. So Cannex, as you know, is a publicly traded company. We are the dominant operator in Washington State, and 4Front Holdings have operations in Maryland, Massachusetts, Illinois, and Pennsylvania, and as of last week now in Arizona. Their plan was to always access the public capital markets, and they were contemplating a number of ways of doing this in 2019, one of which was to do their own liquidity offering, an RTO or an IPO. And when we started talking to them last summer, we realized that the best way for them to get their own public listing and the most complementary transaction for the benefit of both their shareholders and our shareholders would be for us to acquire them. And the reason for that is that we are very, very good at the cultivation and processing end of the value chain. They are absolutely the best at the retail end and the policy side and the applying for licenses end of things. And so really by bringing our companies together, we have really created kind of overnight, if you will, a very, very strong multi-state operator that is now in 6 states. So we see this as a long-term play for everybody, a focus on operations, bringing our complementary skill sets to bear. We really think this is really a match made in heaven, as we call it.
Well, you know what? I'm glad to hear you say that, because Anthony, my follow-up is going to be, how does this help Cannex? But you've outlined some of the ways it's going to help you guys. I'm just reading some background material, and again, excuse my ignorance. It says Cannex and 4Front are arm's-length parties. Explain that to me, and maybe articulate some more about how this is going to help your company.
Yeah, so what that really means is that there's no common shareholdings between the two companies. This is just two companies. You know, essentially it's a merger, but because they're slightly larger than us, this is what is referred to as a transformational or a significant transaction, because we are acquiring them by issuing more shares than we currently have outstanding. So they are going to end up being the larger piece of the pie, if you will. But how it benefits our shareholders is that we now have immediate access to opportunities in 5 new states. And the opportunity for us is to take our cultivation expertise and our processing expertise that is already the best in Washington and instantly plug it into 4Front's portfolio of licenses in now 5 other states. So for example, 4Front have 2 dispensaries in Massachusetts. They also have a cultivation and a processing license and an existing facility. But we already have our operational team from Washington who are literally in Massachusetts as we speak, who are focused on getting the cultivation and processing opportunity and operation in Massachusetts up to the same level of efficiency as we have in Washington. And what we do in Washington is really quite unique and quite unheard of, really, if you look at the metrics compared to other companies. We have yields of over 450 grams a square foot. We are processing large amounts of biomass on a daily basis. We have 7 of the top 10 edibles brands in Washington, the number 1 and the number 2 flower brands in the state. So we really have some very, very strong operational core competencies that we can instantly now plug into these other states that 4Front brings to the transaction. And they, in turn, are able to deliver us opportunities for retail distribution because they have dispensaries in all of the states that we already mentioned. Unfortunately, in Washington, you're not allowed to be vertically integrated, so we don't have direct access to our own dispensaries. We're a wholesale business. But in Massachusetts, Illinois, Maryland, Arizona, all the states I've already mentioned, we are going to be a pure vertically integrated, operationally focused company, and that's going to be very good for everybody.
It sounds amazing. Amazing. Anthony Dutton, you know, of course, the wonder wizard that is Ed. Ed, you have a question for
Anthony, how you doing?
Very well.
Once this merger, if you will, goes through, and you do start to trade again, how's your treasury going to look? Are you going to have a big chunk of cash there to work with?
Well, we already have a large amount of cash. We got $30-odd million in the treasury. We are a profitable company from our operating base in Washington. And as you probably know, Ed, you know, we went public last year with a financing of $48 million. There were a bunch of warrants at $1.50. Those are now all in the money. So we think that with this continued increase in our share price, you know, those warrants will be exercised. As you also know, we were very, very fortunate to get Gotham Green as a large shareholder in late 2018. They invested $32 million into Cannex. You know, they're a fantastic partner, if you will, the force behind Kronos and Ianthus and others. And they also have a number of warrants as a part of that injection of capital. So we think for the time being, we're going to be very well capitalized. Obviously, growing companies always need access to capital, and that's why, you know, I think 4Front wanted to become a public company. But for the time being, our balance sheet is very strong.
Very good.
Yeah, Anthony Dutton, the CEO of Cannex Capital Holdings. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll be watching it. And good luck and all the best to you, sir.
Real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
Very insightful.